Hey everybody, welcome to EventSpeak on EventSpeak with me, Big John, CEO of Beyond Experiential. If you've tuned into the show before, you know that we are an interview show that lives on the new social platform, digital network for all of the event industry, no matter what capacity of it you're in, EventSpeak.com. We've had a host of various folks that have come in and talked to us, and all of them span the event industry, and today's guest is no exception. In fact, I'll go as far as to say today's guest is a very special guest, as he's been a very dear friend of mine and a mentor to me and many others for quite some time now, Mr. Kevin Lyman, founder of the Vans Warped Tour and the Kevin Lyman Group, and now officially Professor Lyman. Is that right, Kevin? Welcome to the show.
Right. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's definitely been a transition for all of us, including ourselves now. As you throw professor in front of your name, you needed to learn how to teach 50 people on Zoom. So it's been a different time for all of us. So good to see you, John.
Good to see you too, Kevin. And my first question is, I sincerely hope that our Fran and the girls and yourself, you're doing well, staying safe and healthy in this pandemic climate.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely affected Sierra, working for Six-Man Cruises. She was here. She had just finished her spring cruise season, so she was here visiting, and she stayed here because they're letting her work from here. They haven't canceled their season, so she's still working pretty hard towards the end of the summer. They have some cruises planned, and it's been nice to have her here. And Sabrine's finishing up her junior year online, and I'm teaching online, so we can't complain. And it's maybe a little selfish, but I think I would have been a little different if I had a 42-city tour this summer.
I'm sure that's definitely the case. That actually serves up a good question. So the transition, 25 years of your life with Warped Tour alone, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, you've been in the capacity of being a concert producer, promoter that goes back to Lollapalooza in its early stages, correct?
Earlier than that, you go 12 years before that, I was with Golden Voice. So it's, I've been around doing this about 40 years now. I just turned 59. I did my first shows when I was 19.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've been doing this over 40 years, and been through the ups and downs of the business. It feels, it's a little strange. You wish you could be doing shows in a sense, but I was making a transition. The big thing I had was this mental health festival, which I'm sure we could talk about, the 320 Festival.
Yes.
And we're starting to transfer that knowledge to a group of students. It's so important to me, like transferring how to run an event, how to bridge education into it, and put philanthropic thought. So that's where the 320 project was that we were doing with Linda Bennington. And, we were having LA Live on May 9th. It was just going to be like a Warped Tour, but for nonprofits. There was going to be music. There was going to be panels, speakers, films, a benefit show at night, really pretty amazing lineup. And all of a sudden this hit. So they're living in real time of what so many of my friends are going through, friends who have had to bring down tours or festivals. These students had a festival that they were producing at LA Live. That's like as big as you get in LA almost, and
absolutely.
And all of a sudden I said, well, we got the word from the city, and that this isn't going to be happening at LA Live. And you go through that first week of kind of like, oh man, I'm depressed a little bit. I mean, you put your heart and soul into something, you're going to be rocked. But I've been through this stuff long enough where I'm like, you know what? No, we can do this. So that's where we've shifted the whole 320 Festival online. And I'm not sure when you're running this episode, but will be held May 8th, 9th, and 10th, 320festival.com. You can even, if this runs later, then you can always find the panels and speakers will be on YouTube. They're great panels. We're doing mental health in the workplace, mental health in the prison systems. We have an amazing group of mental health and addiction. We've got about 17 panels, about 12 roundtables. I think we've got over 70 speakers now and about 25 performances that will be interspersed between it. So it's like a Warped Tour. It'll be like a lot of stimulus coming at you for 21 hours over 3 days.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of I can't just say, hey, we're going to have a 2-hour panel or speakers thing. You got to throw 3 days of programming and interspersed performances, film clips. So it's been keeping everyone a little busy. And then I think right now it's really important to stay busy.
I think that it's interesting because, in a sense, as you are, and something I know you've always been very passionate about in fostering the youth and working with young people, where you're preparing them to throw this big festival, and not too outside the ecosystem of live events. Things can change in the last minute. Mind you, I don't think anybody saw the pandemic coming, but that is interesting to me because, and first point, yes, we will air this episode next week, so we'll definitely happy to throw some love for the 320 Festival for people to check out. But I'd be curious to know that as this news comes down and you're talking to your group of student producers, what kind of direction did you give them? Like, I mean, how do you take something that is supposed to be this multi-day festival that's of a traditional kind of a sense, and now you have to turn it into something online? What are the biggest challenges there? Or also, what are some of the benefits to taking it virtually?
Well, we did a kickoff event on March 9th, John. We did it down at USC Bovard Hall. And actually 2 days later, they closed down the campus. You couldn't do any campus events from May 11th on. So we just squeaked in there. We had an amazing panel, people from NAMI. We had people from Rise Above Disorder, so from the philanthropic area. But then we had people like Ken Jeong, who everyone knows from Hangover, Matt Singer. He was hosting that night. We had Tiffany Jenkins from Juggling the Jenkins. And so we had this blend of kind of people that maybe with a little celebrity, but we had people with real solid knowledge on mental health who are certified people, And then I kind of fall in between that. I've been around long enough, 40 years in the music business, to identify the need for this type of thing. And I had just had another knee surgery, third time, from a broken body out on.
3 of them now.
3 now. Yep. You only have 2 knees to replace, and I've done it 3 times. So I was shocked when they told me. I kind of got through that evening. It was only a few days after the surgery, and then they told me that over 200,000 people watched it on Facebook. And I was like, wow. So one, I said, gosh, that must be a sign that we were doing something that I always feel there's a need for what I do, but I didn't realize, like, wow, on a Monday night, 200,000 people and then it was spreading kind of virally to watch this video. And then, the kids were really disappointed. And I think through the whole process, they saw that even someone with my experience, 40 years in the business, 25 years of maybe helping people and build artists and stuff, I was hitting a lot of roadblocks with this project. It wasn't a priority. People, and understandably, they had tours, they had festivals, they had things to go to, but we were piecing it together. It was going to be a great event. We had 43 nonprofits down there. We had the panels. But now you take it online, and we can now amplify this message. So we've been able to get speakers and things that couldn't be there live, artist performances that we're going to be announcing a few. Now they're coming in almost every day. 3 or 4 bigger names keep coming in.
Sure.
That we may recognize at home. We had a lot of young artists that was fantastically, and that were passionate about mental health step up. And, I always like to give people that chance to be part of it. And now we're going to be able to spread it. And it's interesting because we are getting, people going, well, wow, I work for a big bank and I saw this and we've sent this into our HR department. Or, we're a sheriff's department in Florida and one of my people brought this in and because we're doing, mental health for first responders. So it's kind of spread wide. We're going to it'll live online afterwards. So hopefully these sessions will go on because if anything, the stigma of mental health has been breaking down. People are understanding more and more about it. We're willing to talk about it. But this whole situation, beyond the economic situation, what is the mental health damage being done to our society? I think we're going to have to start really looking at the long-term effects of this in a form of PTSD start thing. There could be that we're going to have to start identifying what this is going to be in society because we are a social society overall. And some of us learned that maybe it was okay to slow down for a little bit and not be in a rush everywhere. Trust me, the first few weeks of this, I was talking to a lot of people that we were all kind of like, wow, maybe this is what we needed. It was forced. But now we're starting to look at this and go, people, this is long. I was a little longer because I was kind of on quarantine from February 27th with my surgery. So I had a head start. But, people want to get out. They want to do things. We have to be safe. And now I think we're seeing that general restlessness in the country right now. And it could get worse while people are going out and going back out and going, okay, it's fine. And then people are kind of really good. That paranoia starts setting in. Oh my God, and then the news, you have to separate yourself from this and make sure you're self taking care of each other and getting your exercise and food. We keep talking about all these things. So we're going to be addressing all that. We're going to have nutrition and mental health. We're going to have meditations in the morning. It should be pretty interesting programming.
That's a really interesting point that you make there. And it seems to me like almost sort of serendipitous that while you had this festival planned, and then through the circumstances of the pandemic, it's turned into, probably one of the first of its kind, a large virtual conference festival concert that is focusing on mental health. And, that's something I've been saying a lot as I'm talking with people. Aside from the immediate, of course, concerns with the virus itself, and what we're seeing from the physical effects of it, we get to that point where I think it's of our nature that, it's been long enough now where people are getting restless. And, you see protesters to some extreme, and you see others on the complete other side of it that are afraid to leave their home. I think it's hard for people to discern what's fact and what's, media spin or fiction, if you will. But I think if nothing else, that taking that extra time to be introspective and focus on our own human revolution, if you will, is the time to do that, because the universe hit the reset button on us. And I think, like anything else, there's going to be silver linings to it. Obviously, we want to see this thing come to an end quickly. We want to see it come to an end with as little loss of life as possible. But more importantly, we have to learn from it. And we have to pivot and adapt as we look at our society moving forward. And to that note now, with this project and others that you're working on, I can only imagine that there's a lot of people out there that are aspiring in the concert promotion business, live event business. Everything's so tied in now, from brand marketing, experiential. I mean, I remember for you folks watching that may not know, I spent 11 years on the Warped Tour, and the Warped Tour, I watched it go through a metamorphosis. And I think, Kevin, you were one of the first people that really kind of had a focus where sponsor world became a thing. And a lot of us, including myself, transferred from, whether we were doing merch for bands or tour managing or whatever it was, or some of us that were lucky enough to play the tour, whatever the case was, you ended up now getting an opportunity to work in the brand world. And I think that set a new kind of protocol amongst the concert industry now. And I think a lot of those people are probably wondering, like, okay, how do we now create smaller events? Because as we know, once the veil is lifted here, so to speak, and we're on the other side of this, we're not going to see these 20,000 person festivals just come right back. It's going to take time, right? So what would your advice be to those aspiring people to how to adapt in a post-COVID world?
Yeah, that's a multi-layered question, but if you take it strictly from a brand perspective, I think the brands, right now are really, you've watched their complete media focus to, a form of pro-social valuation. I mean, they're looking at what can we do good for society. And I think we are shifting that way in general, especially in music and things. It was a slower process. I think this was accelerated. A friend of mine, Lisa Uckman, coined that term pro-social valuation for brands. So they're going to start looking at getting involved in things that are doing good. That why are we doing good? My brand. So if you're a band, I'd be looking at, that brand may be looking to say, okay, we're going to do a smaller show. Okay, let's just take the Whiskey or the Roxy capacity, 500 people at the Roxy, I think, right around there. Knowing that we may have a 250 capacity show. Okay? So from the total commercial end of it all, I'm going to make it so special to come see Green Day or someone at the Roxy that we're going to use this as our branding, and I'm going to push my brand. So I've been talking to companies like this. We're going to go push our brand, but then we're going to make a donation to a local fund. So maybe that could be, Music Cares or something that we know we can't get the audience in there. So I think branded entertainment and special unique things, I would be looking, I'm looking at that very closely. I also looking at, there's going to be a niche out there created of people who will enjoy things online. We were very resistant. I think the problem was, it was like the younger generation people were coming into the office and going, we can go online with concerts. We can go on. And everyone's like, no, man, why? No, man, we got venues. We got to fill up our venues. We sell tickets. You go to concerts. That's how the business works. There was resistance to this online movement. I remember people coming to me quite often saying, you should come into, like, go online and you could do concerts online. It could be Warped World and all this stuff. I go, no, Warped World is a hot, sweaty parking lot. You're sweating and you're worried about a storm hitting and there's spans and you're just, the stimulus out. How can you stimulate people online? Well, it's getting better. I mean, literally the connectivity, the content that, and I started watching that with the late night television shows as they left the air for a little bit. And then slowly have been coming back on to where it's almost short of a live audience. You're almost watching that show. Like it's a high quality show. The quality keeps going up. So when this all is said and done, there's going to be a big segment of the population that will go back to the normal things they do. And it'll come over time. There'll be half-lives of everything. And, not half-lives of Clorox, like whatever the guy was talking about yesterday on television. But,
good Lord. Yes.
People going on. Yeah, but there's going to be people going, okay, you know what? All right, it's been a few months. The cases are down. I feel like I can go out. Oh, there's antibodies. There's vaccine. Okay, but there's going to be a chunk of people that just go, you know what? And that's where this mental health thing comes back in. You know what? I'm just not comfortable around large groups. I'm not comfortable around those. So there's going to be a moment in time that maybe that's going to be a way that 3% or 4% of the audience or the world's going to want to digest their entertainment a little differently. And now that we have these systems in place, you can carve a nice living out of 3 or 4% of the population. That's what I always said with my festivals, Warped, Mayhem, Taste of Chaos. It wasn't for everyone. It was for a niche of the audience. We hyper-serviced a niche. So if you're finding that audience and hyper-servicing them right now, some people are prospering. It's interesting. I know that I think this is also a big turning point. Where gaming and music has been trying to find a pathway. And, I've been trying to do some stuff in that world, and some of it's roadblocks. You hit some roadblocks with certain things. But I think we're seeing this real shift to a lot of this. All it has to do is a niche. You find a few niches. It's not going to change completely. And there'll be a lot of people making a living in those niches. I'm also thinking I'm really interested in these companies that are doing well in this area. Cameo seems to be doing well. Artists are being able to replace some of their money instead of just throwing up maybe I need help. Okay, I'm going to give a little service for that. It's not quite the Entertainment Institute that I would say we were working in. But this past week, I just saw Topeka Live launched. And Topeka Live is very similar to what we were trying to do year-round with Taste of Chaos. No, Jesus Christ! Now I'm losing my mind myself. With the Entertainment Institute, taking those classes that we were doing backstage online and now putting them into a platform. And if any one of your people that are watching you, check out Topeka Live. You get to sit in songwriting sessions. You get special sessions. You get special things. So the artists are kind of curating content, unlike their VIPs where they would monetize a handshake. So we're starting to see that transition. Carves out a niche. You've got a nice new little career in the music business. Big festival it's going to take a while here. I mean, I don't see. The margins are thin on a lot of the big festivals. We hear about, the big Coachellas and things like that, but I'd say 90% of the festivals run, I don't know, on 10% profit margin. When you think about it, when it really comes down to it. And if we have, the other day I came up with this 4-part, I don't know, some people will get mad at me, but it's okay. I was walking around one morning and I kind of said, if Trump opened the country tomorrow, we're starting to see some of this now. If it just opened up tomorrow, I said, there's going to be 25 of the people, and, for lack of a better word, you call them MAGAs. The MAGAs are going to go back. They're like, you throw a country festival, boom, and it's on. Like, we're coming out, make America great. It's great again. Doors are open. Then there's going to be 25% of the people, and these numbers aren't exactly right, but 25% of people, I called them the antibodies, that are the cure. No, the next 25% were the impatients.
The impatience. Yeah, okay.
Impatience. So it's good. They had some events. I missed out. Oh my God, I'm at home. I'm waiting. Okay, I'm going to start drifting back. But that's going to take, for every day we're in quarantine, it's going to take 2 days longer for those people to get comfortable. So if we've now been in quarantine almost 2 months, we're still talking, oh my gosh, we're talking, we're starting to get down to 3 months down the road if we open up today, before that group 25% comes back. Then you got the antibodies, the next 30%. Once the antibodies, and we can tell what's going on. So now we're at 80% of the concert going public is ready to go. But how long does that go out? Are we talking 3, 4, 5, 6 months? But really, that last 20% are going to be the vaxxers, I'd call them. They want to have the vaccinations.
Yep.
You want a vaccination.
Yep.
I'll go to a concert. And when you think about it, that 20% is how we run our business. The profit margins are there. So until we can make them comfortable to come back, and then we're talking about reduced capacities, we're talking about all these different things going on. But until we're going to be really careful. So either bands are going to have to downsize the venues they play, maybe the bigger bands will take all the available dates on the smaller. I think it's going to be a niche. This is where that niche comes in, where it's like the big bands will be playing the smaller venues, will be there. We won't be playing the big venues yet, but this is where the small bands, the up and coming bands, are going to struggle for a bit because they don't have those opening spots. They can't go out to the venues. There's too much traffic out there. So if they can really create that online presence for artist development over the next 12 to 24 months, it may slow down your career where you want to get out on the road, you want to do all this stuff. But I think if you can really embody what's going on out here, this is the time to look at that for a plan and start looking at that plan 12 to 18 months down the road. How are you going to navigate all these new things? So when you do get the chance to go out on the road, you are worth more tickets and you can get those more spots that are going to be more coveted out on tours.
Coming from the music business myself, managing state to state, it's something that conversations come up many times. And I feel like that's 100%. I agree with you. Now is the time, at least for the artist perspective, to put that time into really building the foundation of your digital marketing, your social media strategy, and kind of laying out that groundwork now, because it's going to take time. I feel like, we're talking to all kinds of different people, and folks are talking like early next year before we really see a semblance of what we saw, pre-COVID-19. And I think that it's going to be an opportunity in some ways, because the normal has changed. And in a sense, it's a new world. And there's going to be opportunity for those that are willing to think outside the box and sort of reinvent themselves, in a sense, from that capacity. Now, Kevin, something I always thought was great about you is that you've always been a very approachable guy. In my 20 years now in the music industry, I don't know many that roll the way you do. And I can remember, and I'm sure a lot of folks out there watching that are vets of the Warped Tour, where you would take a day and go out and load trucks and literally take your shirt off and go for it and be out there working your ass off like as you did, which, meant you were a mentor to many of us. And I'm curious, where does that come from for you? Can you say there was a mentor in your life that you learned that from, or was it just something that, is part of who you are? I'd be curious to know sort of the origins of that.
Well, I don't, it's interesting. You start going back through your life and you do these things. I always had jobs and things, but I worked in the clubs of LA for 12 years before I stepped out and did Lollapalooza and then started the Warped Tour. I started in the clubs in the early 80s and then switched over to Warped Tour in 95. So it's almost, 14 years of experience of working 325 shows a year. I would take any gig anywhere with any type of music. I was never picky. I watched it. I saw the people that were, I think in our business, unfortunately, back then you had more bad examples and bad mentors, and then you pulled from a few. I would, if I had to grab a handful, it would be Bill Silva, who we all know. A lot of people out in the industry would know Bill Silva. Bill Graham, who I unfortunately only got to meet a couple times, but I watched him from afar when we used to sell egg rolls in the Grateful Dead parking lot and watch Dead shows. And then Gary Tovar, Gary Tovar,
Yes.
who was the original founder of Golden Voice. A lot of people watched the Golden Voice video that just came out, the Coachella video. And I think you're hitting me on my end of the week Zoom fatigue. My brain's a little.
It's quite all right. You're doing good.
Classes and everything, but Gary Tovar, a lot of people are knowing that name now because they've watched that Coachella video and don't realize that when you think about it, Kevin Lyman, Paul Tollett, people mentored kind of under him. Yeah, we didn't follow his path in some of the things that he became known for, but he was a guy who taught us how to deliver value, the fans were the most important. He smoked a lot of weed, but he was also the guy out there helping kids sneak into his own shows sometimes. And anyone that knows me, I've helped kids sneak into my own shows sometimes if I've seen a weakness in the security, just to kind of show them that they need to start paying more attention. So we learned things through him. Those are my three, but I guess my big three, I would say, in the business that, if I ever had a chance to really, I see Gary a lot, and I get to see Bill once in a while. And unfortunately we lost Bill Graham in, early 1990. And so it's been good. And I'm getting, the energy is coming back. I mean, I always think a lot of people were coming to me, and so a few people told me that it's like, I had some early stories when this came out that I said, if this starts to fall, this is going to fall. And they'd go, yeah, when they'd see me speaking up or anything, they're all like, fuck Kevin Lyman. They were friends of mine. He's doing it again. And then all of a sudden, a week later, they're canceling their festivals or they're rerouting tours. I didn't want to, this is like, you don't want to be right. Yep. You want to be right in this case. You don't want to be right. But if you've traveled the world and you study people, and I think, everyone always says, I was a student, not in the music business, I was a student in culture. And this is a cultural shift. This is like changing the world. And if you sit there and think the world's going back to the old ways, it's going to leave you behind.
Yeah.
And
100% agree.
That's where we're going to get a lot of bitter people. And in short term, I guess you would adjust it to when they closed the steel plant in Cleveland. Yep. The people who sat there and were waiting for the plant to open, or the people that go to the rallies and when they're told that steel's coming back. No, it's not coming back. It's not coming back. Those cities now have been repurposed for new generations of people that are taking those old buildings and old things and turning them into what they are. So we all need to look how this world's going to be after this. If we can't go back to the old way. And I think you might need this kind of, this is brutal. This is brutal. And the loss of people, we've lost too many people.
Yeah. And
we're going to lose many more people. And if the right decisions aren't made right now, and someone's trying to turn the clock back 3 months and say, we're going to restart, they're going to kill a lot more people. And there's a lot more people are going to die that don't need to die. But we need to, and that's where your gut starts hurting, and you feel for your crew people, and you feel for everyone, and you drive around and you just go, oh man, those people are out of work, and that people are out of work. But I think I've seen, so many people stepping up with nonprofits and people just making t-shirts. Frank, who Merch Daddy, doing his online merch company, that thing's blowing up. I just talked to Emily Vey, who works with punk rock art projects, all of her art, and she has a great idea, and she's working with a band. I see benefits going on to keep Gilman Street open. We are stepping up we are a society that overall wants to get along, and we want to make things better, but there's just, the narrative gets controlled by 3% of the people on the fringes on both sides. But 94% of us would love to figure out how to make the earth a better place to live in, how to have cleaner air, we just want our children to live a better life, but we're letting that narrative, like, we've had 1 million people by the weekend. We'll have 1 million people who had this COVID, get those families, or get those 50,000 families to say, oh yeah, go out and do whatever you want.
It's something that is hard to put your head around, and I think that what you were saying from the mental health perspective to the fact that, if you go strictly by what you see on the news and in social media, I think you could have a very, a bad misconception of the world. There are a lot of people out there that do want to create value in what they do. There are a lot of people out there that legitimately care about their neighbor, that want, that we recognize that we are a community, and from my own personal beliefs, I literally believe we're all one, and we have to unite in solidarity. And, and that's something that, when we were all talking, obviously this is something that my partners and I put our business to a screeching halt. And we thought to ourselves, what can we do to try to at least contribute, to try to help? And we thought, well, maybe try to create something that is going to give the event community a common place to at least come and create dialogue amongst each other, and find a place where you have a bunch of different minds thinking about an issue as opposed to just yourself. Kevin, it's been such a pleasure talking with you today. For people interested in the 320 Festival, where could they find more information? Would that be on your agency website?
Yeah, no, go to 320festival.com, 320festival.com. And you can stream it through your own Facebook pages. There's ways that you can tap into it. It's really about spreading the word. It's going to be some programming that'll be of interest to you, and some that may not. But if you guys can help us, because once again, it's being a complete student project with the KL group and Talinda Bennington, funded by Kevin Lyman. We put this together, and we got a few now people stepping up to help us make it work, because you have to say you're going to do something and then worry about the finances later, and that's been my whole story from starting my festivals and everything. You have to chase the cart down the hill and make sure that you can catch it before it crashes off the cliff. And we figured it out. We've got some great supporters. Chipotle just stepped up, and EverFi, which is an education system, really likes what we're doing. So they're helping us, and now we're able to, spend some more money on marketing and really make this great. I hope it's going to be a chance where people, they can grab tidbits that they can take through their lives or back into their communities. But it's always great to see you, John. Thanks for having me on a late afternoon, when I said I just feeling a little Zoom fatigue from teaching class and doing office hours all day long.
I sincerely appreciate it, Kevin. And I could tell you on behalf of the family here at EventSpeak, Beyond, Evolve, Nebula Agency, all of our partners that are involved in this, and we can talk more off camera, whatever we can do to support you and what you're doing with 320 Festival. And we also put a big emphasis on fostering the youth. EventSpeak is all about that, about really trying to unite everyone. So by all means, whatever we can do to help, we will. That's Kevin Lyman, everybody, founder of the Warped Tour, founder of Kevin Lyman Group. 320 Festival coming up at you on May. What was the date there, Kevin?
May 8th through 10th. And you can always follow me on Twitter, Kevin Lyman. Easy things, Kevin Lyman. Find me on Instagram, Kevin Lyman. This is my gardening channel, and Kevin Lyman wherever. It's just, I don't have any hidden names, so you can always follow.
And the final magic question that I wanted to ask you, and a lot of folks that know this is true, but Kevin is quite the chef, and even more so a grill master. I got to believe there's a lot of good things cooking at the Lyman household. What's for dinner tonight? Well,
actually, we've been doing this. This is so away from barbecue. We're doing a sweet potato gnocchi with sage butter. And I think we're going to probably just have a little salad with that. Gnocchi gets pretty filling, but it's like have some sweet potatoes from the garden we dug up, and we're going to make a sweet potato gnocchi in a little bit. That's where I'm heading on right now to start getting that ready.
That sounds amazing, Kevin. Once again, everybody, Kevin Lyman here on EventSpeak. Kevin, thanks so much for stopping by. You can find us on the web at www.eventspeak.com. I am Big John from Beyond Experiential. That's what I do. Wishing all of you good health. Please take care of yourselves and each other.
Thank you.